Buenas noches, Ship Familia. Welcome back to the latinXfactor Sharpen Your Professional Edge program. I'm Dr. Dora Renaud here at Ship National, and I'll be your moderator this evening. This month, we're continuing with our series of webinars that will prep you for the National Convention Career Fair, as well as other virtual interviews. Tonight, we're welcoming back our friends from Accenture, a true part of the Ship Familia, always supporting our convention each year, providing valuable professional development, mentoring, and so much more. So this webinar will help prepare you to stand out for your virtual interview. You're going to get tips on how to be authentic in phone and video interviews, stand out as an amazing candidate, and get your dream job from the comfort of your own home. Our panelists this evening are Ilenia Herrera Lutz and Michelle Figueroa. So welcome. Happy to have you join us today. Welcome to the show. How are you tonight?
We're doing great. We're excited to be here with the Ship Familia. We always feel at home, en casa, con todos ustedes. Gracias.
Yes, thank you so much for that great introduction, Dora. Elena, do you want to introduce yourself first, for those that don't know you?
Hi, I'm Ilenia Herrera Lutz out of the Chicago office, and I have been with Accenture, is going to be in November, 16 years. I actually started in the consulting practice and what is today's strategy in consulting, and pivoted at Accenture since we're such a large firm and we do many things into I&D recruiting. One of the things that we're proud of is that we put inclusion before diversity, because we cannot have a diverse environment if we're not inclusive first. And with all the things that are happening in the world and some of the unfortunate news this week, I just want to, remind everybody that we hope that you guys are all okay. You guys are taking care of yourselves and each other's, and ultimately, until all Black Lives Matters, not all lives matter. So we are certainly thinking about you and everybody going through the different emotions, and we're here to support you. And one way we can help you today is hopefully giving you a little bit of encouragement and empowerment as you all pivot to job searching in this busy fall. But again, thinking of you.
Yes, thank you, Elenia. Definitely echoing what she said. We hope that all of you are doing great or doing well. I know a lot of you started your semesters already, so hope you're all safe and healthy. My name is Michelle Figueroa. I might be a familiar face for the Ship Familia, but I'm happy to be here representing Accenture as the ship recruiting lead for this year. So if you don't follow me on Instagram already, please do. I often post our opportunities and events there. But I am the sourcing recruiter for the I&D team along with Ilenia, and I'm based out of the LA office. And then quickly before we get started, we were going to do this at the end, but we're going to say this right now. We'd love to stay connected with you all. I'll repeat it at the end too, but make sure if you have a moment to go to accenture.com/ship 2020. This year we're going to start doing interviews before the convention, so I'd love to see your resume before the convention. So please make sure you go to that link, and then this way we can also see that you attended this webinar. So a pointer there. I'll say it also at the end before we end, but for those that might not be able to stay for the whole time, just wanted to share that. And then I'm also on LinkedIn, so hopefully my LinkedIn profile won't explode, but I'll get to your message eventually. So if you have any additional questions about Accenture, about this application process, about anything really, I really welcome you to reach out to me. I'm here for you. All right, so we can't travel this year, so we're going to go through a virtual, I guess, interview journey. So we're gonna imagine we're at the airport, right? And this is going to be your journey, your interview process journey. So this is going to be the agenda for this webinar today. So first, las maletas, your pre-interview. That'll be the first part we'll be talking about, and then we'll go into el despegue, the day of the interview. And then we'll do during the interview, when you're in vuelo, and then we'll end with your aterrizaje, your post-interview. So again, we can't travel, but we're going to pretend we're traveling during this webinar.
Fasten your seatbelts and let's get ready for takeoff.
Yes. So before we get started, I'd like to do a poll. I want to know if you're all packed up. Are you ready to go on your interview journey? So Dora, if you can start the first poll, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, poll is launched.
Cool. So you'll see three options. So are you packed? You have your toiletries, you have all your outfits, you're ready to go. Is it I think so? You've just been putting in what you can in your suitcase. You think you forgot something, but you're not sure. Or it's definitely not. You haven't even gotten the suitcase out of the closet. So take a moment to see. Dora, let me know when we get, I guess, the
We hope
majority.
that at least they've
Sure.
gotten their suitcases out of the closet.
Yes.
We're at 70% participation in the voting booth and still going. We're at slowing down at 80%. So I'll go ahead and close the poll and share the results. So we have 47% say yes, 33% say I think so, and 20% say definitely not.
Well, if you're
Okay.
not ready, we're hoping to get you ready.
And if you are packed up, we're gonna make sure you don't forget anything in your suitcase. So first, I'd like to touch a little bit about what happens even before a recruiter reaches out to you. And some of these things might be self-explanatory, but I really want to start from the foundation of getting into your interview hiring process, especially those that are freshmen or sophomores, very early into your career. So the first one is kind of self-explanatory, but I'm going to say it anyway. Are you using a professional email? Now, I've seen a few interesting emails, like don't use badbunnyfan@gmail.com or
Like
anything
Daddy.
silly like that. Yeah, and, not, just make sure it's professional. I think, usually you all use your edu email, so I think we're safe there, but just putting that out there just in case. The next is something to think about is your resume, this isn't a resume workshop, so I'm just going to mention this quickly. Is your resume the best version it could be? So we're virtual this year, so this is really your entrance to any opportunity that you're applying to. So make sure that you're giving the best version of that. And then also LinkedIn is also going to be really big this year. I go in there a lot, so definitely have that updated. It's grammar check. You can also even turn on a thing in LinkedIn where you can let recruiters know that you're looking for a job and even ask, say which roles you're interested in, what cities you're interested in. So definitely, I recommend you use that feature of LinkedIn. Um, Next is, do you know what organizations you're targeting? So this is really just more of a self-reflection uh, of you sitting down and seeing, okay, well, let me see who are the sponsors for this year's convention. Let me see who I'm going to target. And then I want to say a quick tip here. As a recruiter, sometimes when I look for candidates, it'll boost up profiles of those candidates that like Accenture. Or so if you are interested in a company, make sure you go and follow and like them on LinkedIn. It could help have your profile pushed to the top. And then again, we haven't even applied or gotten a recruiter contact yet, right? So this is something, one more thing is, uh, if say for instance you are interested in working at Accenture, go ahead and look at your network. If you go to Accenture on LinkedIn, you can see who works there, and you may never know. Maybe your cousin works at Accenture, or someone from school that you met a few times works there. Definitely use that feature to get to know the company before you interview. Maybe they can help you. Maybe they can, advocate for you on the other side within the company. So just again, starting those quick few tips before you even apply. And then, of course, your recruiter is your first point of contact at an organization. So that's why I guess I'm saying the interview starts before the first contact. So even when you're talking to your recruiter, I mean, it's not officially an interview, but for me, I take account, like, how is this person interested in Accenture? Is this person engaging? Are the emails professional? Or is this grammar not on point? So just wanted to start with that before we get into the actual interview.
Can I jump and give 3 tactical tips? So the
Yeah.
first one I'm going to give you, we're in a virtual reality world, so we cannot introduce ourselves in person or it may not always be a chance for a phone conversation before you to talk to someone. So in LinkedIn, use the recording capability of how do you pronounce your name, particularly people like me that have such a complicated name, Ilenia. People always butcher my name, and that is just a very easy way to help people feel at ease in having a conversation with you. The second one, if you're going to ask someone to introduce you to a recruiter, I would say as a heads up and etiquette, I would have that person give the recruiter a heads up first of the introduction so that person can get the layout of what are the opportunities that are available in what cities, what departments. So then when you jump into the conversation, the person that introduced you to and yourself are going to be more prepared for that conversation. Again, we're in a virtual environment. We can't have these ad hoc opportunities. We can't run into the elevator at each other at the SHIP National Convention this year, right? So everybody is going to be doing these things. So these are little ways about how do you stand out and have that person, if they know you, say something great about you, like, oh, I worked with Michelle in my senior design last year. Even though she was a sophomore, she was amazing, and kind of share why, right? To kind of pique that recruiter's interest, right? Because again, these LinkedIn introductions and these email introductions are going to be all over the place. And do your homework in terms of the organization. So very quick tips. We can go to
Awesome.
the next one.
Yes. And then this is back to you, Ilenia.
Yes. So I'm going to quickly give you the land of the lay of the land regarding all the interview types that there is. I cannot stress that we're living under unprecedented times, and everything that we're going to be doing this year is virtual. This is going to require agility, patience. Somebody's going to lose their Wi-Fi, their internet, something, right? So these things are going to happen. So plan for it. One very easy thing you can do to minimize disruptions, rescheduling, and again, think of the volume of interviews you may have virtually, and think of the way from our end how many interviews we're going to have to schedule. So the first handoff tip, like very tactical tip, is when you get that email for the interview, please, please, please read through everything. Confirm your time zone, what platform, to avoid a rescheduling of the interview. Do not wait until last minute, because I will tell you this, doing things virtually takes longer. There's more back and forth. It's not like, oh, we're at the career fair, I can quickly add you to the schedule. That literally takes me 5 minutes. Here, it's a back and forth, and all of the companies are preparing their emails in terms of what is the overview of the interview, the steps. Make sure you methodically read something. Give yourself time. Pay attention to the deadlines. Again, I cannot stress this year the volume of everybody going virtually is critical. So if you apply, you should be checking your emails regularly. And if you find that your school email is blocking everything and everything tends to go into spam, it's time to recommend using Gmail. I mean, Google is our client, so I can pitch them, or any other email that is not going to get blocked. So I'm giving you very tactical recommendations of issues we're seeing already. Now, again, I will say it one more time. When you get that email invitation to apply, to do a online assessment for that interview, check through all the logistics and make sure you understand all the steps to minimize your having to reschedule or misunderstanding. And as soon as you get it, get organized, put it on your calendar, et cetera, et cetera. Now, in terms of the types of interviews, you will get this year a lot of online assessment. The methodology of interviews is moving away from behavioral interviews. What is a behavioral or situational interview? We all know them. Tell me about a time when you did XYZ and it's a challenge. These interviews are becoming very rehearsed. So companies all over, not just Accenture, are looking for different ways to measure. And you're going to see that we want to see more organic, authentic, think quick on your feet reactions. So the online questionnaire or online assessment, do not take this lightly. Like this could be, I mean, different companies have different processes, but it will be a data factor in your consideration. So don't rush through it. This is why not reading emails last minute, paying attention to deadlines is important, because they typically, most companies will give you an estimate. This is going to take 15, 20 minutes. Plan for that and more. Be in a quiet environment so you can fully concentrate. I know that can be hard because we live with 7 people, or everybody is kind of working from home, or people are coming in and out because of restrictions with mobility due to COVID. But make sure that you are strategic about the time and the place. So maybe if it means going to your backyard, or um, locking yourself in a room and getting that quiet, do that for sure. So take those online assessments seriously. The screen interview and the technical test, they tend to be very conversational interviews. It's going to be really kind of quick hit and targeted. From the screen interviews, they're going to be confirming any basic qualifications if you meet those. And then from the technical test, it's the same, but focus on a technical aspect. Use your network, like Michelle said. If take a look to see if you're interviewing with XYZ company, who do you have in your network? So then you can get that inside scoop, and think about this clearly and concisely in answering the questions. I know we'll get more into that. I think, and then case studies. This is not something to be rushed. Case studies have very specific methodology based on the Minto Pyramid book. And basically, there are 18 frameworks basically to do case studies. I recommend that you pick 4 or 3 that you're really familiar with. It could be the decision tree, it could be the 4 or the 5 Ps, the one that is about cost analysis and supply chain. So you can hit multiple opportunities. And basically, you are given a problem, tends to be based on a real life situation where a business experienced a number of scenarios. They could be facing a technology upgrade while they're trying to enter a new market. And the case study is not a mental exercise. This is one that you have to practice a lot. And for the phone and video interview, I am actually going to summarize this entire clockwork thing that Michelle has prepared. And if you're not confident, get on video with a friend and have people give you feedback. I will tell you right now, I use excessively my hands. I love to use my hands. Michelle knows that. We're in a call, I'm always using my hands. That's my way to show excitement, but you don't want to sound like you're hysterical or all over the place. So if you don't have a lot of experience doing video interviews or in one of these, practice with someone that you trust and have them give you the hard feedback. I had someone the other day that spoke in a monotonic tone the whole time, and it was very hard to keep engaged in that conversation. And I actually gave that feedback to someone, to that same person, and he thanked me profusely. He's like, Ilenia, no one had told me that. And we need to use inflections, right, to keep the emotion going, right, in a way that is realistic. You're not going to start screaming, but that is important. Let's go to the next one. Michelle knows that I like to exaggerate. It's my, I'm originally from Panama, and we are very hyperbolic, and I love hyperbole as humor. Okay, this is the slide that I call your action items in terms to get ready for interview. Michelle did a wonderful job in starting each of this with an action verb, which it's going to prompt you to do that. The first thing you need to do is get a hold of that job description. And if it's written in a language that it feels that you don't understand, have someone who has interviewed with that organization or works there, or a friend of yours that is a specialist in the industry, to translate that for you. I think ultimately what you want to do is do a mapping process. So what are the responsibilities of the job? and do an analysis of where do you stack. So if they have, okay, this role is responsible for managing stakeholder relationships, et cetera, think about what are the instances where you have had to manage stakeholder relationships. Maybe is your advisor for, since you're the president or vice president of the ship chapter or something along those lines. So you have an example of how do you meet these, or you identify gaps that you have and think through if there's any philanthropic or volunteer work that you've done. I mean, I think in all of these experiences you can draw from internships, and they don't all have to be the golden internships. I think it's about the quality of your role. If you work at the library, maybe you have very demanding professors that come, looking for research information or journals. I mean, that is a stakeholder. You do philanthropy work, in your work with SHIP, right? You can draw from a lot of examples. Michelle talked about self introspection, and I think it's really important to do that, and that table mapping helps you. In terms of research, in order to present your best self and the best examples, what needs to happen? Three things. You need to understand the industry you're interviewing with. You need to understand what the company does and the role. And you need to connect the dots of how that relates to you in terms of your understanding, experiences, and what do you bring to the table that these companies value and understand. I will tell you this, every company in their way that they describe their career journey, the things that they value, they use very specific language. And it's actually quite repetitive to figure out what is the currency that that company values. Like in our company at Accenture, we are a company of people that works with people, and we love being with people. So you hear a lot about leadership, teamwork, engagement, and every company has what their core values and the direction. So make sure you're aligned with that and how that fits to you. And that means that create that alignment. So I already slid into that category without knowing that. I think is what do you bring into the table in terms of experiences, your strengths that align with being a best fit for the company. And I will tell you this, look at company culture, because you can have the best fit for the job, and if it's not going to be a culture fit for you, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to enjoy the types of coworkers because you have completely different value set systems. You're not going to stay in that organization. We already talked about practice interviews. So recruit your aunt who works at, I don't know, she's a personnel manager, or a friend, a professor, an advisor, a friend who always gets the super awesome interviews. Have them sit with you and kind of critique you. And you need to think about storytelling. Storytelling is a more prevalent topic, because a lot of times it's not just telling the bullet points. What people remember is the journey, and obviously what you learn or got out of that situation. So think of the stories in your background that are meaningful. I will say and emphasize this, and Michelle will talk about this. You need to listen to the question, because you should not be forcing an answer about something else that is not related to the question. That is not a reflection of you. Like, I'll be thinking that this person did not understand the question well. Are they not prioritizing what the question is? The interviewers are not there to get you. We actually want to pass people, but we need to make sure we know what qualifications we're looking for. So listen to what we're saying, because that's what we're prompting you. And my number one golden advice that I give every year here, if you're talking to an interviewer and they ask you something and your reaction is, isn't this the second or third time Michelle has asked me this? Don't think it's the interviewer, it's you. They are trying to put a hook for you about something they want to hear about, and you're not getting there. So, and I say this with the best intentions, it is not likely the interviewer, it's most likely you. And if you get that feeling and you're not sure, you can say, you mentioned this to me, and I want to make sure that I'm answering your question accurately. And then try to pinpoint what is it you've been asking me about my leadership example. Is there a specific type of example you're looking for? I mean, they may be able to tell you or not, but at least maybe they push you in the direction that they want. So that is like one of my golden tips. I think, Michelle, I pass it on to you.
Yeah, I do have one more thing. I mean, I'm a first generation college graduate, so in college I didn't have that. I didn't have much of a network. So even if you don't have a network, you can still practice interviewing with the career center, with your friends. I mean, I sometimes if I back then when I was practicing for my interview or something, I don't my boyfriend, for instance, doesn't understand what the heck I'm talking about, about recruiting and all that, but or he will practice with me, and he's talking about accounting, and I have no idea what he's telling me, but I can get the tone. So even if, again, if you don't have that network, it still helps you to practice with your friend or loved one.
And guys, there's no shame for asking for help. Here at Accenture, asking questions or asking for help is a sign of strength. So I'm going to encourage you to embrace that value. You will be surprised how many more people want to help you, but you just need to ask for help. But also be flexible. Maybe somebody says, I can't help you until Sunday. Is that okay? And if that is your friend who, again, gets all the rockstar interviews and they can talk to you on Sunday, I will take the help.
Hmm. Yes. And then we can start the next poll question, Dora, please. And the question is, have you ever had a bad or embarrassing interview? So I have a
We
short
all
story
do.
to say. I have a short
I
story to share with everybody.
definitely.
So I guess I'll share my story while we get the responses. So
Yeah, I want to
uh,
hear your embarrassing story, Michelle.
it's
I don't think I know.
embarrassing. I don't share it too often. So I think when I was a recent graduate, I was trying to find a job, and it was at a call center, and it was going to be mostly in Spanish. So I went to a coffee shop around that office to get myself ready. And I ate, I drank coffee, and I was running a little bit short on time. So I rushed to the building, and I kind of freaked out because I couldn't find the parking lot. If you're in Los Angeles, you can understand how hectic that gets sometimes. So I finally got to the office. Then I'm at my interview. I'm meeting the hiring manager, and then halfway through my interview, I realized that I'm chewing gum. uh, and I think at that point I was at no point of return, because like I was like in the mood of the interview conversation, and I did my interview chewing gum the whole time, and
You
I
probably
was
with your mouth open, Michelle.
I don't know. I don't want to know. I don't want to remember. It's like blocked out of my memory. So, and I had a friend that worked there, and I thought I did okay. I was like, well, I was like, oh, I answered all the questions while I was prepared for my interview. So then I asked my friend, like, oh, like, what did they think about me? And they said that I looked unprofessional because I was chewing gum. So, that opportunity wasn't meant to be, but it definitely taught me a lesson. I don't chew gum anymore. Not kidding, I don't chew gum. At least I do mints. So again, that was something very small that I forgot that in the rush of things I could have easily avoided that embarrassing moment. So anyway, what are the poll results?
81%,
Yes.
81% said yes, and 19% said no.
Oh no.
Yeah, we
Well, at least we know that you're not alone in having an embarrassing interview. But the good thing is when you make a mistake, you can always learn and do better next time, right? Um, So we're going to I'll pass it back to Elenia for some more tips on so you don't have another embarrassing interview.
and I would recommend, let's talk about attire first. I am wearing pants as I'm giving this presentation, and I say this in jest that I seen people all of a sudden have be in a video interview, and a fan or they have a screen and it falls over them. They have to get up, and then they're in their boxers or something. So, I don't think that's a reason to not pass somebody in the interview, but I would recommend that you are properly attired in a decent way, comprehensively for your interviews. And just like with every normal interview, even if it's virtual, confirm what the attire is. I mean, hopefully we have all relaxed a little bit or attire for the interviews, but definitely will be setting the tone. Now, in terms of practicing, I want to talk about body language, posture, and tone. Uh, I think it's really important for you to be yourself. Hopefully, most of you have a high degree of empathy and are humble, and are sincere in your answers. I think that shows through in your conversation. If you're speaking from the heart, you're speaking from Michelle. I mean, like when I speak to Michelle, for example, I always tell her, like, hey, I always go with the truth, because when you're telling the truth, it shines through. People can tell. So your posture and your tone is so important. Again, do not have a monotone. I think if you are truly excited about a topic that is introduced, maybe you're very excited about artificial intelligence, maybe you're super excited about analytics, show it. Particularly here, right? Like this year, there's not going to be a lot of in-person opportunities. So how do people get to see you? In your application, in your resume, in these video interviews. So show your personality and use your tone. If you get very excited, then use a higher pitch. I'm not going to advocate for anybody not to be themselves. I mean, there's a wide spectrum of personality. Some people are more social introverts, and other people are more extroverted. But if you are there's a topic that you're passionate about, you should smile, your eyes should widen, right? When you're speaking about these things. And if you have a video interview, make sure again that you don't have distractions. But I'm going to tell you something amazing that I found through this virtual world that we are in. It has invited every one of us into each other's homes, into having a pet or a dog jumping into an interview, and use a kid, a sister, a parent. Leverage that to forge a personal connection. I mean, if you see in my background, I have a poster there. Everybody always asks me that doesn't know me, what is that poster? It's an Adele poster. And then all of a sudden we have this conversation about Adele. As we were getting ready for this broadcast, my son came in and he popped in to say hi to Michelle. So take those opportunities for those personal connections, as we're inviting everybody to our home or our offices. I'm ready for the next slide.
Yeah, and then one more thing, it's on the slide, but I recommend personally, even if it's a phone interview, to dress up because they'll put you in the right mindset. I don't know about y'all, but if I take an interview in my PJs, I don't know if I'll be in the right mindset to talk about my career and my resume and all that. So I just wanted to add that quick thing.
Right? Whatever it helps you to get in the zone for the interview, like,
Mhm.
yeah, go for it. So we talked about making sure that you read through the emails, because let's face it, the communication to get to your interview is going to be some sort of email, right? Or electronic form. So, or you have to log in somewhere to see it. Don't waste the last 5 minutes. Test everything before you go. Take a look at your angle. I mean, you don't want to be looking like this or like this, right? So make sure you're set up correctly with everything. I think that is self-explanatory. I actually wanted to try one of my other headsets today, and I've been having issues all day trying to get it, so I kind of gave up on it. So I go for the short route to stay on track. Your environment. I mean, make sure that you don't see anything embarrassing in the background. I can think of a million embarrassing things to mention, but I'm going to leave that out. And make sure that your room looks really tidy and conducive to an interview, right? And make sure that you have good lighting, there isn't a reflection. I think the expressions you give are going to be very important. And I am going to recommend you, like I do every year with you guys, is all I can see here, you can see my background, you can't see my front. So set up your war room, um, and have in there, I typically have like a quadrant of the things when I have an important presentation, um, and have my sections like, okay, so here's the intro, here's where I'm going to talk about the benchmarks, here's where I'm going to talk about rolling the process. And as I practice my interview, there's always something that I forget. So I put little stickies, and nobody needs to know that you have this war room in front of you. So if you don't take I would love to hear who's going to take my tip. And you can send me in LinkedIn. I give you the permission to send me a picture of your war room to me and Michelle, because it is we get nervous, right? Or we get excited, and you forget your train of thought. This morning I had to give a presentation, and I literally had tape here, but you can't see the front where I'm at, my points, and I highlighted in color like what I forgot, and I put stickies like, don't forget to introduce this. Sometimes I struggle with transitions. Michelle knows that my mind is not linear. I can jump from place to place and leave where I picked up. So I actually have to work extra hard for transitions, and make sure you're doing that as you're speaking as well. And have your notes handy about that. So one thing I want to go to is organizing your conversations. And I don't think we have this built in, but now that I mention it, it is important. So I'm going to tell you a quick story so you know how to put this into practice. And my former boss actually picked this up about me. I literally am not a linear thinker. I can think about 7, 8 things and pick up exactly where I left. I have that organized in my brain. When I'm talking to Michelle, I warn her, you need to slow me down, because I can jump from thing to thing to thing. And you can't count of people making those transitions. So when you're in these interviews, pause yourself to make sure that you're jumping from one aspect to the other. And it's very easy to break things. Here's the 3 steps, the 3 action items you need to do, or here are the 4 action items that I took. And you get that to practicing. A very specific tip that I can give you is write some of your examples if you're struggling with interviews, because as you write it, it helps you flush out if the sequence of what you're saying makes sense, and catch yourself up for transitions. And if you're in doubt, just say, next, I'm going to speak about how I created the monthly reports. And then people know you're anchoring. The technique in interviewing is calling putting the person in the pit, point in time. So to aid with your storytelling, put people in that pit, point in time, so you anchor them where you want to start or where you want to jump the conversation. Or if you're seeing that the person is lost, or maybe you want to say, and since we're talking about the monthly reporting, I'm going to start in this step, and then you're anchoring to that point in time. So that's a very quick and tangible way to organize your storytelling, especially because you can't diagram. Maybe you can whiteboard electronically, but in a lot of the interviews, I've seen people pulling a piece of paper and kind of drawing a diagram, and maybe we can't do that because it's virtual, especially if a company doesn't have the whiteboarding capabilities. Michelle, I think we're ready for another question.
Yes, the next polling question, please, Dora. And if you can let us know how much time we have left. I don't remember if the session is an hour or an hour and a half.
We have an hour for this.
Okay.
7:38, Michelle, for me, Central Time.
Mm-hmm.
Which will be 5:38.
Okay. Okay. Never mind. So the next question. I'd like to know how do you all feel about interviewing virtually? Does it make you more nervous that, I guess, some things could go wrong, like your Wi-Fi can go wrong. You can't, open the video thing on your computer. Do you feel the same? Is it like, well, it's just another job hunt that I have to be on, or you feel confident, you feel like you're ready to start interviewing? Because now we are in the part of our journey where you're in vuelo, the plane took off, we've been told by the flight attendant to take off our seatbelts. We're flying. You're going to your interview.
And guys, use the chat to start asking us questions if there's something that we haven't covered that you want us to cover, so we can squeeze it in. So make sure that you're leveraging the questions functionality.
Yes, we have lots of questions coming in. And we are at 85% participation for the poll, so I'll go ahead and close and share the results. And we have 43% say makes me more nervous. 49% say being virtual doesn't change much for me. And then 9% say I rock during virtual interviews.
I love the confidence. Love it. And hopefully for the ones that are nervous, these tips are going to help you.
Yes, yes. Okay, so Ilenia mentioned this a little bit, but I guess something interesting now that we're in this virtual setting is like we're in each other's homes. Like you're right, all of you are in my home in Glendale, California. So it's something to keep in mind, and at least maybe this will help you feel less nervous that you're being invited into somebody's home. And as Latinos, as Hispanics, as Latinx, we know that when we're in someone's home, that we treat everyone with respect. We make sure you drink water. Are you hungry? So for me, that'd be one tip to remind you that you're in somebody's home. So we kind of talked about this already, but if you do have a camera or a video interview, don't forget to smile. I know I have a habit if I'm concentrating really hard, like I might look mad. Well, I don't know what I look like, so if someone could tell me if I look mad when I'm listening to Eleni on this webinar, let me know. But sometimes you don't know what you look like when you're not talking. So when in doubt, just smile and nod, make the other person know that you're interested in the conversation. And of course, making eye contact, I know, is a little bit different now that we are virtual. So I personally struggle if right now I don't see myself on my laptop because I would just be looking at what I look like and I'd be nervous about what faces I'm making. So I just have that down, and I'm making sure that I'm making eye contact directly with the camera. So don't forget about that if you do have a video talk. And then also embracing small talk. Sometimes as we talked about, with Elenia's how she has an Adele poster in the back. If you sometimes interviews might get off topic, I encourage you to embrace that. To get to know the interviewer better, and sometimes during interviews you'll notice that they'll ask you, about your hobbies or some like icebreaker question. Really take advantage of that to share a little bit about yourself, and hopefully have that connection with the interviewer. And then if something goes wrong, I encourage you to just laugh and move on. We're human. We're all quarantined together in our homes. I'm trying something that we say at Accenture is, being truly human. So that's something that I know I'm adapting this upcoming recruiting season. Just laughing at the little mistakes that happen, because I'm just trying to be compassionate and empathetic to candidates, and I encourage you to do the same when you're interacting with interviewers. You're gonna say something, Elenia?
No, I was agreeing with
No.
everything you said.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it for this one. So I just emphasizing that, to make sure you treat your interview as if it were an in-person interview, because as we've been talking about, don't stand up if you're wearing, shorts or something that's not professional. And then of course, even though it's virtual, you should still be doing that research and that preparation so you can be ready for your interview.
And remember, again, everything is going to be virtual. So I will tell you, scheduling virtual interviews takes way more time. So take it seriously and be ready to go and rock and roll.
Yeah. So remember, we're in vuelo. So now you're in your interview. So I'm going to share some quick tips on how to, I guess, navigate. Or I know that sometimes the anxiety gets the best of us when we're interviewing. So I would say the first one, pace yourself. I imagine that you must be pressured that you only have like a 30-minute interview, but you're like in your head, you're like, well, I have to talk about everything and I have to show my best self. But just pace yourself. Even, just take a breath between sentences. If you feel a little nervous, it's okay to have a little bit of a moment of silence to just catch your breath and recollect yourself. Also to be clear and concise. This tip is, I say this because I've done interviews where candidates will go on and on and on and on and on like their answer is not concise, and I have more things to ask the candidate, and unfortunately, if it took you 10 minutes to answer what your extracurricular activities are, it's going to kind of ruin the process, or it might not make you look in a good light either because you weren't able to
Well,
explain your story in
and
a
Michelle,
concise.
I think that's element of emotional intelligence, right? Like if you
Hmm.
were
Hmm.
asked to provide a 2 3 minute summary, right? Why are you going 10 minutes into this summary? It's not a summary, right? And
Hmm.
pick up the cues of the person looking at you, right, as well, right? Like take a moment to breathe, or stop to say, I provide, I want to take a pause to make sure that I'm answering your question correctly, or did I cover the main topics, or is there anything specific you want me to add? And that gives the interviewer the chance to either, kind of stop you because maybe they already have enough information and they want to move on to another question that you haven't answered yet and that they want to evaluate you on. So
Mhm. And then that kind of ties in with, I guess the bottom thing you see on there is, it says tell and show. I noticed I don't say show and tell. So your resume is kind of like the show and tell. You're showing and you're telling why you're qualified, but tell and show is what's the interview. You're telling us what your skills are and why you're a good fit to the job. So again, back to the importance of practicing and making sure you're ready. Make sure that what you're sharing is impactful and clear and concise. And then also I will add, I mean, I'm guilty of this. Sometimes I say or say filler words, but it's when you practice with somebody, make sure that they let you know what your filler words are. Uh, just because, oh, you see, I just did it. Just make sure you're conscious of your filler words. Sometimes it's okay, but if it's too much, it might,
it gets distracting.
yeah, it does. like,
It takes away
if you,
from your message.
yes.
Yes.
And then the last one is to be an active listener. Eleni and I have been saying this, but if we do ask you a question again, it's because you didn't answer it the first time, or just be sure that what the question that you're asked and that you understand it, to make sure that you answer it, and again, show your best self, tell and show.
And I want to jump in because the filler words is not just, oh, it's a filler, you're repeating, like, and all of these that you say. What happens is the person that is hearing you, you're breaking your own sentence.
Mhm.
And it breaks the person's concentration, the person that's listening to you, the message, what you're trying to communicate gets lost because you're pausing with a distraction.
Mhm.
So what you're conveying is less effective. So this is not a nitpicky exercise, but it's really centered in giving you advice. So when you are sharing your answer, it is more impactful and powerful. And the tell and show, I can't emphasize it enough. And I'm going to give you a very specific example. I have people who tell me I am the best leader, I'm the most organized, and they go on and on for 2 to 3 minutes, repeating versions of the same thing. You told me you're organized. So now show me. Like, how are you organized? So I took it upon myself, when no one in the team did it, to break down the 20 tasks we needed to do. And I created a schedule and I assigned it and I color coded it. And then I tracked the progress of everybody in the senior design project. That is, you told me you were organized and then you showed me an example of how that was. That is a common trap in interviews. Let's move on to the next slide.
Yes, this
I
is
want
you,
to be conscious
Elenia.
that we have 12 minutes. So we
Hmm.
talked about understanding the question. If you are dying to share a story that you have not received the question, do not try to fit a circle into a square, because that it may be relevant to you and you may be super proud, but it may not be relevant to the questions the interviewer has about the position. And all the questions tend to be centered is Juanito el candidato o María la candidata a great fit for this job that I have? So at the end of the interview, if they ask you, is there anything else that you can share about yourself that you haven't had the opportunity to discuss? That is the time to bring that example that you've been burning to share, right? Or ask for permission, to share that. If we have time, I would like to tell you an experience that I'm really proud of which I grew so much as a professional. Do we have time for that? And then see what they say. If you don't understand the question, there is no shame in asking for clarification. Don't jump to answer whatever it is. And if you don't understand it, pause yourself to make sure. Depending on the interview methodology, some interviewers may only be able to repeat the question and not be able to explain the question. And that is a common practice. So just kind of wanted to make you aware, but make sure you understand the question so off the gate you get en vuelo in the right direction and you don't get into the wrong flight. Taking a pause for silence is perfectly correct. It doesn't need to be this nonstop that you go. No, you don't need to fill every silence. Actually, silence can be a very powerful thing to drive a point. So if you want to share something that you work really hard for before you transition to the next idea, pause. Have a couple of seconds of silence to allow your interviewer to process that or acknowledge that it was great. And in a lot of the interviews that we're talking about, there isn't a right answer. There isn't a perfect answer. What interviewers want is your authentic answer. And I think that's a good segue to the next slide. Is this the one about authenticity?
Yes.
Yes. And it is exhausting to pretend to be a person that you're not. I will tell you that. It's exhausting because then you have to carry it through. So you want to work for a company that likes you for who you are today and what you bring to the table. Your personality, the uniqueness of you is what should be valued, and allow your tone, your expressions to carry your passion. Move away from these rehearsed answers because you just sound like a robot. You should be you. And if you're excited and confident and love something, show it. That's all I have to say about the slide. Just be yourself. If there's a company that they want you to pretend to be somebody else, maybe that's not the right place for you.
Yeah, and then
And,
it's yours. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
And it's your story. You know it better than anyone else. So I was gonna say, if you see yourself on this slide, let me know, because this is a picture from the line from last year. Thought it
To the
was,
career fair.
yes, I wanted to bring myself back into the in-person experience of the ship career fair.
Yeah, you're taking us all back, Michelle. I remember the excitement. I know in the Accenture booth we will be with the parranda going on. So that's where you transported me.
Yes. And then now we're ending our journey. Now it's the post interview. We're aterrizando to our final destination, which is the end of the interview. Again, so I want to share these quick tips to don't forget. So even though it's virtual, don't forget to send your thank you email and be appreciative of their time. And if the recruiter is comfortable, or the person you're interviewed with, also add them on LinkedIn. Because even if you don't get the job, it still is helpful to stay connected and start building your network. And then also, after your interview, think about how it went. Uh, Think of your lessons learned. The job search is a journey, and there's always room for improvement. And especially this year, this is a year to be resilient and to really take time to reflect on how you're doing, and how can you keep doing better. So each time you go into your interviews, you'll be improving your confidence each job interview that you have.
And remain agile.
Yes. Let's see how much.
I think we can open up for questions.
Yeah.
Dora, do you have any questions that you want us to start answering?
Oh my goodness, we have lots of questions here. So we'll start with Leticia's question. Thank you for sending that in. She's saying that I feel like I'm awkward during interviews and being introverted doesn't help. Do you have any tips to just be more relaxed, be more genuine, and not
I would
stiff?
I would say practice out loud your answers to questions. I mean, if you have friends that have interviewed for that company, try to understand how the process is, so that minimizes the anxiety, and practice answering your questions. I think when we know our stuff, then it becomes you become more confident about it. And it's okay to be introverted, but like Michelle says, make sure you're engaging and you smile and you show your excitement about things. I mean, at the end
Yeah.
of the day, they want to hire you for your skills and for who you are.
Yeah, and then,
Okay.
if you're talking one-on-one with somebody, just kind of put yourself at ease. You're having a conversation one-on-one with somebody rather than, group of how many people are here? 107. Just sometimes I know as an introvert, just I think it helps to remember that you're having a one-on-one conversation to help you feel less nervous.
And if something goes wrong, shake it off,
Hmm.
like the song says. I'm gonna.
Yes.
Yep. Okay,
Okay.
next question.
Mariana wants to know which or what kind of questions should I ask during or at the end of the interview? Is it better to ask only at the end?
I think most companies will kind of give you the outline right at the beginning of the interview. People will tell, this is who I am and this is what we're going to cover. And at the end, we'll have time for questions. Or, when they're introducing, are there any questions before you start? I think that's a good point to jump in and say, if I have any questions, what will be the best time to ask those? In terms of the types of questions, I think it always makes a great impression, the person that has insightful questions, right? Don't ask the same questions as everybody else. This is kind of where doing your homework and kind of bringing in your own personality and interest come in. And then if anything else fails and you get nervous and you forget all your questions, people love to talk about themselves. So you can always ask them about what is their career journey. And I will joke about it. Like, I know you get a million questions of, why have you stayed at Accenture for so long, but what has made you stay? And or just say company culture is really important for me. So
Hmm.
what can you tell me about your company culture? And ultimately, other questions that should be on your list are company culture questions. If you care about giving back to the community, or you care about, I don't know, women in technology, inquire what programs does that organization has in that aspect. If there's none, that answer is telling on its own. And if they have a lot of different programs, then that should be room for excitement for you.
Okay, we have a lot of questions about where to look the eye contact during a virtual call. Do you look at the camera? Do you look at the screen? Do you look at the interviewer? Can you address that?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier. I would say the camera. So
I say
like
the camera.
you could do like a
That,
little trick. Right now I'm not running the PowerPoint anymore, so I put I could see myself underneath the camera, so it looks like I'm looking, hopefully it looks like I'm looking at you guys through the video. But if it is too distracting, I would say just don't look at yourself and just focus on looking at this general, well, with those you see my fingers, the general area of your video camera.
Okay, this one is from Cristina Flores Saldana, and she wants to know how to reach out to the recruiter that you've met in person before, but now only have a digital contact.
if you met the person before, try to recollect the occasion, or maybe you had a conversation with them. So I'm going to give a shout out to Adrian Cruz, who is part of the UF SHIP chapter. And I met Adrian as a freshman in the middle of the career fair and the hospitality suite. And we had a great conversation. He's like, and he was too early for a lot of our interviews. So we talked about what are the early AD programs that he should look upon in the next year or two in terms of Accenture opportunities. So I give that example because that's what I would write in the email. Like, hi, Michelle, we talked last year, very briefly at the career fair, but I appreciated the tips you gave me on XYZ. Wanted to learn more about these programs. Is there a way that we could connect? And you can do that in LinkedIn if you don't have Michelle's email. So that will be my advice. Hang on to something personal that you value that conversation, or just compliment the person. Like, Michelle, I know you were surrounded by like 300 people and I couldn't talk to you, but I'm always impressed how nice you're always with the students. And my friend so and so went through the process and said how great you were. Like, find something to connect, right? To have those 6 degrees of separation. That would be my advice, Michelle. I don't know if you have anything else you want to recommend.
Um, no, I think that's good. We can move on to the next question.
Okay, so let's see. There's a lot of questions about different tools. So are earbuds professional?
Yeah.
Would you recommend? Is that okay?
Yep.
All
Whatever
right.
works to, make you heard.
I
Yeah.
think everybody understands, people have different financial situations, and right now things could be challenging. So use what, does the job, right? These are utilitarian things. Like no one should have a headset with diamonds. So if it works, you can hear, that's what matters.
Yeah.
At the end, you're
I like,
selling yourself, not your headset.
yeah. I appreciate Franklin Mina's question. He's getting down to the point. Our
I
salary
love
negotiation.
Franklin. Hi, Franklin.
Okay. He asks, are salary negotiations a do or don't?
I think it depends on the company. I think you need to understand if the role is negotiable. Many organizations at the entry level have standard salaries and everybody starts at the same time. So there's really nothing to negotiate that. But if you're in a role where there is negotiation because there are different entry points, then that's kind of where that makes sense.
Okay, and then we have one
And know your
from,
audience, right? Know the company,
yeah,
know the role.
yeah. Okay, this one's from Nayeli Bear, and she wants to know, do you think it's okay to ask the interviewers for feedback after the interview or to email them afterwards to ask them how one should improve?
For me, I think this is a kind of like a personal comfort. To me, if I just finished interviewing someone and they ask me right away, it's awkward. I would wait until you hear the results or after the interview to see if you can receive feedback. I will say that many companies could have policies where people are not allowed to discuss individual results. There's a lot of privacy laws and considerations, but if they can't give you a specific answer about yourself, maybe you can say, well, since you talked to so many candidates, are there any general patterns that tend to be problematic or things that students should improve on and kind of go with the general patterns and themes. I think they may try to throw a hint or two for you in there, and will give you a range of some of the things where people are not being very successful at.
Or instead
Okay,
ask generally, what do you look for that you like about candidates? Or maybe switch the question instead of for feedback, what,
Flip the script, right? What do you
yeah.
love in candidates? What is your
Hmm.
ideal candidate? I
Yeah.
like that, Michelle.
okay, and our last question for the evening. Let's see, this is from Valentina Quintero, and she wants to know, what do you think about having notes during the interview? What about taking notes during the interview?
I'm a big fan of having notes and taking notes. To me, it shows that you're attentive to detail. This is a priority for you. This is something that you're taking seriously. You're prepared. So that's what it tells me. You're not here to play. You're here to really interview. And it's okay to have your questions written down, right? And say, based on my research, here's some key questions that I really would love to ask you, you know? I don't know, Michelle, what's your take?
I agree. And then if you move on to the next round, you have your notes from the screen interview or even, through your previous interview. So you're just kind of building up your way to the hopefully the final round. So I also recommend notes.
And actually, you may learn a thing or two during the interview. I think, especially with our Accenture interviews, whenever we have an exchange with a student or a candidate, whether it's experience or student, we want to make sure you have a takeaway that you can practice in your own career journey. So people may give you recommendations about books, methodologies, and if you don't have anything to write on, right, how are you going to remember that? So yeah, I think it's great to come with your notebook and be ready with your own questions, reminders for yourself, or to take notes on advice that you've been given.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and download the rest of these questions and send them to you, Michelle, if you want to look at them and maybe
Yeah.
post some of these responses on your
Ooh,
LinkedIn.
Oh, we
I
love
like that
that.
idea.
Yes, the
Yes.
post-webinar Latinx webinar Q&A. Yeah, let's do that, Michelle.
And the
Awesome.
quick thing on the screen, you'll see accenture.com/ship2020. Please make sure to go there if you're interested in connecting with us, and then you'll see my LinkedIn. There's probably a lot of Michelle Figueroa, so make sure you put Michelle Figueroa Accenture so you can find me.
And we're going to do a lot of interviews pre-conference, so I would strongly recommend that you connect with Michelle uh, soon this week or next week.
Okay, so
Thank you.
any
You guys
final
had great
thoughts, ladies?
questions. Guys, just shine through. Own who you are, what your experiences are, and be yourself. I think we want to see you, the real you, shine through the interviews.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, well, there you go. Ship Familia, please join me in thanking Ilenia and Michelle. We appreciate you both for sharing such valuable knowledge with us and with the members. So join us September 16th for a great show with Raytheon Technologies and learn about virtual interview tips to reduce the stress and also hear about their current job opportunities. Ship
We love her
Familia.
friends. We love her friends at Raytheon, so don't miss
Yes.
it.
Shout out to Zach.
Oh, fun. Okay, so Ship Familia, please remember to take our survey. You'll receive a thank you email with the survey link after the webinar. And the last reminder, everyone, that this recording, along with others, can be found on the ship.org website under the latinXfactor program or on the Ship National YouTube page, and you can find it there. So signing off from Ship National, buenas noches, Ship Familia.
Bye.